All righty, perfect. Welcome everyone. So today we're going to be I'm just going to be going over a brief overview on how to use Google Sites, the new version of it. So that way you can be able to establish your own faculty website or even a personal website if you want to use it on a personal Google instance for your own. Just to kind of give a little bit of a quick forward, earlier last year, we decommissioned Rocky, which was the old web server that we used on campus. So if you had like a website set up on campus that was in the form of like oswego.edu/tilde, say like /tilde Abraham or /tilde Trong or something along those lines there, those will not work anymore because those were based off of the old web server. So instead, the new replacement is to use the newer version of Google Sites. And I was just going to give a brief overview of how to, of what it offers and how to get a quick website up and running there. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. All right. And does everyone kind of see like a blank looking browser right now?
Yes.
Excellent. I have this set up kind of on purpose because I want to kind of set up a pseudo similar kind of like start from scratch type session there. So right off the bat, in order to access your access sites for Google there inside the URL browser, we're going to type in sites.google.com. Now, if you've already logged into your Laker Apps account earlier or at like another time on the same browser there, it will bring you directly over to this page. However, if you've already cleared your history in cache or you've done this on a new browser before, what you'll instead get is a login to put in your oswego.edu email address. So
could you just stop for 1 second so I can grab a piece of paper? Just 1 second.
Okay. This will also be recorded, by the way, so if you want to come back to this at the very end, you can also do so as well. But I'll give about maybe a few seconds in case you guys want to grab a notepad.
Sorry about that. Thanks.
No problem. All set?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so inside the URL browser, you'll type in sites.google.com, and then you'll authenticate using your @oswego.edu email address. And then once you log in, you'll get this screen right away where you can either start a new site or get to work on creating another website as well. As you can see, I've already created a site over here, but before I get to that one, I wanted to kind of direct your attention over to this little template gallery right up over at the top here. If you don't want to start from scratch, there's many other types of templates that you can kind of play around with to get a start from. So if we click this template gallery, you can see different types of templates that you can start from. So one of them being based off of like if you want to do like a class-based website or a club website, or if you want to put together a personal portfolio or something for work. So if you want to like put up a work website, or if you want to set up a personal website on your own Google account, they have several templates for small businesses. So like one for like setting up a restaurant or like a photo portfolio or a salon of sorts if you wanted to kind of grow your business from there. So I'll just briefly kind of show like an example one using like say a class template over here. If you click on one of these templates, it will automatically create one for you and it'll have some of the stuff already kind of pre-filled out. So you can like click on any of these types of areas here and like update this. So like I'll put down like my name of sorts and you can kind of go down here and update the information. You can put in like custom pictures and you can like kind of add or remove pages on the side. So that's just kind of a brief overview of like just like a predefined template there. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to kind of start from scratch. So let me just go back for a second here. So before I start from scratch, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of a kind of like finished product towards the end of like what you can kind of expect when starting from scratch. So I'm just going to go right over here and open up one of the sites that I kind of opened up here. And I'm just going to kind of give you a bit of a preview. So if you do any type of web design or have dabbled around with it before, you'll notice these three icons that kind of give you different environments, different views of your website. So this one assumes that like you're looking at it on a desktop type screen. If you click on this, you can kind of do a viewport to make it look like you're looking at it on an iPad. And if you click on this, you can kind of like impersonate a phone. So that way you can kind of see what it looks like on like an iPhone of sorts there. So this is just like a brief like home page that I've set up. Here's an about page where I would have like biographical information, but I'm kind of a little lazy on that aspect. So I put in some lorem ipsum paragraphs there to kind of pad that out. And then I have an example vacation photos tab, which has like some controls that have like a slideshow. So you can be able to kind of like view photos while looking at information on the side and so on and so forth there. So I'll just briefly exit out over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of create a new site from scratch. So that way you can kind of see how quick it is or like how relatively streamlined it is in order to kind of get your own like site up and running. So I'll go ahead and click blank up at the top. And right off the bat, this is like your base plate, your boilerplate website that you're going to be kind of starting with there. So as you can see, you have your controls on the right side to be able to insert like elements here. You can add layouts over towards the bottom, as well as different types of elements such as collapsible group or an image carousel or another button of sorts, or you can even embed Google Drive documents inside there. This right over here will let you add pages. So that way, like over at the top right, if you want to like add like different components to it, then they'll be able to like access it from there. And then over here, you can change the theme of your website. So you can kind of give it like some extra colors or kind of theme it on your own. So right off the bat, you're probably, if you are kind of a little familiar with web development, you'll notice that like there's really not much in the way of like custom HTML code that you can pretty much do. So if you're like a graphics designer that's so accustomed with like cascading style sheets or CSS and all that, you might not get that level of customization that you're accustomed to. But on the other hand, with the drag and drop component of a site editor like this, you might find it much more easier to kind of get up and go with creating your website. So right up over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a site name. Whatever you type inside here is usually what people, when they go to visit your website, is going to see inside the title bar up over here. So I'll just put down DT example website, and then that will update it on here. And it will also update it on your header bar up here too. So if they go to your website on a phone or a tablet, they'll see what the name of the website is right up over here. Now, we probably want to add some pages as well, so that way people can see like different aspects or information of your web page. So I'll go over here to pages, and right over here, you can click the plus button and it'll give you new sections or options on what you can do. I just want to add 3 pages. So I'll just click this stock button right up over here, and I'll add about. And when you go to add a page, it'll automatically add it up at your menu bar up here too. So you'll also have this link here that says home that will bring you back over to the home page. And so I'll add in vacation photos page as well. And one last thing I wanted to kind of direct your attention to is if you go to add a new page here, you'll notice this little option on the bottom left that says advanced. You can kind of customize the path of where you want like your site URL to go. So for instance, let me just delete that last page as well as re-add vacation photos just as an example. So if we click new page and vacation photos, we click advanced. Instead, right off the bat, it'll assume that your site is going to do like sites.google.com/whatever/vacation-photos. I don't want it to be like too verbose to say the least. So I just want it to be like /photos, and then that will be where people can go in order to like kind of look at vacation photos I've done. So I'll go ahead and click done. And so in order to kind of maneuver between different pages in order to update them, you would do it from up in this menu bar. I've tried doing it on this area here before. Well, actually, I take that back because yesterday this function, I wonder if there was like an update that hadn't been working yet there, but this function wasn't working. So you can now switch between different pages you want to edit by clicking these pages underneath the pages icon here. You can either do it from there or you can do it from here too, where you click the link and it'll automatically go to the page that you want to update. So let's start with the homepage section up over here. You can kind of change the theming and the styles of this. I want to kind of change the style so that way it kind of uses similar to what I had. So I'm going to click the diplomat style here. And I am just going to kind of put my name up here. You can kind of update the font size so that way it's like either not as big or use like a different type of font, or you can bold it or make it smaller. And you can also change the header type of this. So that way, if you want like a larger banner to kind of like make it a little bit more like aesthetically pleasing, or if you want to like take up the entire page as kind of like a cover of sorts there, you can select it as that. I'm going to kind of set it as a large banner just so that way it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And I'm also going to change the background image of this just because I want to have something different as an image. So I'm just going to click select image. And by default, they upload some default pictures that you can use as kind of like an example for switching up your wallpaper there. They have some pretty good stock images as well as like some patterns that you can use as well. So keep in mind, you'll want to kind of like keep in the back of your head, like accessibility as well as like different contrasting colors there. Like you don't want to have like something like say like this type of background and like having these having like your font colors like be similar to it. As you can also see, this color just updated on its own there. Google Sites is kind of smart enough in that sense to kind of take like the average color of the background and adjust like the wording color, the font color, so that way it would actually like make it a lot more readable there. But just something to keep in mind if you go to like update the styling of your website there, like if you go to like manually like update the color of sorts there, you'll want to kind of keep that in mind. And now you can kind of move this around too, so that way instead of like being at like inside the center, you can kind of like offset it over to the side. Let me just 1 second. So if you move your mouse up to the top, you'll see this icon, the little move icon. If we click and drag, you can kind of like offset it over to the right or offset it like towards like the left side there. So that way it's not like all centered. I like to kind of offset it on the right on like a full desktop type of setting. So that way it kind of gives it a little bit more of its own flavor, to say the least. And if you want to add components right up to here to like add more information, you can click layouts right up underneath the insert here, and it will add these type of sections over here. So that way you can click and add information. So I'll do info box number 1, and this is where I'll my photo, but not really, but just as kind of like an example. And then right up over here, I'll put like info box number 2, and then I'll put down like this is, I'll put an example photo from work. And then if you click this plus icon here, you have the option of being able to upload an image or select an image from your drive, or be able to put a YouTube video or calendar or map up over here. So you don't just have to put an image inside this little box. You can also put like a different component inside there. So that way it kind of fits in with the website. So I will just go ahead and upload an example image from when I went over to the Strong Museum back a while ago. And I'll just do the same for another image. So these are just a couple of example images that I've put up for being able to put like information boxes inside there. And lastly, if you move your mouse down here, you'll have the option to add a footer. So if like people scroll down to the bottom of the website, you can kind of put like a little copyright symbol down here. So I'm just going to put down wrong, and you can kind of format it however you want as well. So like you can like center align it, you can bold it, you can increase the font size if need be. And then this part will show up on all pages. And a quick segue on that one is your footer as well as your header section here are going to show up on all pages, but like anything between those two, so like your little like header type down here or like any information put down there will only be unique to the page itself. So if we go to the About section, you'll notice that it doesn't really carry over the same background there. So you'll want to kind of keep that in mind when you go to update like individual pages as well. So I'm just going to quickly update this as well as update the image. So I'll use that same image again, just to kind of keep it consistent. And same style here. I'm going to move this over to the right side. And so I want to add a text area here that's going to be filled with like paragraphs of like what my biograph is going to say. So like this is an example paragraph and this paragraph. And the fun thing about this is if you do like typos or anything like that, it will automatically like pick them out for you. And just like a Google Doc, you can be able to kind of fix them on the fly. So it's kind of like similar, like on the fly, how you want to see. Now, at any time when you're working on this, if you want to get a preview of what it's supposed to look like at the very end, like while you're working on it, you can click this icon here that looks like a little computer with a phone next to it. That's the preview icon. If we click this, it'll get you into a preview so that way you can see what your final website is going to look like when you're all done with it. And you can also access like other pages as well, so that way you have an idea of what it's supposed to look like at the very end. And you can also do it inside tablet view or phone view, and so on and so forth. And so finally, for vacation photos, I'll just go ahead and update this one to make it consistent with the other pages here. Change my header type to large banner and move this over to the right side, just so that way it kind of keeps a similar branding. Now, inside my example website, I had a couple of sections down here that had a slideshow inside there. Now that one's going to be a little bit tricky because in order to be able to get the slideshow to show up properly on there, what I ended up having to do first was putting in a layout, a couple of layouts there. So if I put in one layout down here, right off the bat, you can put down like the title as well as the text. But this portion here is going to assume that you want to upload just one image or just a YouTube video inside there. So in order to put a slideshow inside there, this is what you're going to do. First, you're going to put in your text that you want, say, right up over here. So like this is where I would be like, this is my Disneyland photos, Disney World photos, and this is the paragraph. Like this is where I world. And so what I'm going to do next is scroll down underneath where it says insert and put in an image carousel. And so what this is going to have you do is it's going to ask for images to put inside that carousel. As you can see with this little text here, your image carousel is going to need at minimum 2 images. So we're going to put maybe 3 or 4 inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and upload some images. And let's see what we got here. I'm just going to go ahead and upload some of these photos from Disney World. And so there's 4 of them that are going to be inside the carousel. If you maneuver over each one of them, you can be able to kind of like remove them if need be, or you can add text as a caption underneath. So for this one, I'm going to add a caption that says, because that's the name of the attraction that I went to over there. So I'll go ahead and insert this carousel. It's going to show up right on the bottom up over here. So what I'm going to do next is select this little image area here, and I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to take this carousel and then kind of pop it right into that box where that image used to be. And then from there, you're going to see the slideshow appear inside that section. Now, if you want to do another section with another slideshow, you would just kind of do a similar layout. So you would add another layout down here and then put in your section title. So like section number 2. And I'm just going to put in pictures from the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert an image carousel and upload some images here. Just trying to make sure I got, yep, these are all from the Strong Museum. So I have 3 example images I'm going to put in there. I'm going to click insert. And I'm going to go back up over to here, delete this image placeholder, and then drag and drop this into that previous section. Now, I also want to kind of differentiate this section here from the top and bottom so that way they don't like look too confusing also. So if you hover your mouse over each section, you'll notice this area where you can either delete it, duplicate it, or change the section colors. So what I'm going to do for this first section here to differentiate it is I'm going to change the styling and the color of it. So I'm going to change it from style 1 to style 2. And I'm going to do the same thing here for section 2, but I'm going to make it style 3. So that way the colors are kind of like different. So that way they don't kind of blend in with each other. And I'm just going to do a quick preview just to kind of see what it looks like. So on a phone environment, this is what it's going to kind of look like. And then this is the tablet. And finally, the desktop section. So when you're all done and you want to kind of display this out to the outside world, what you would do next is you would click this purple publish button up here. So we click publish. And then for your web address, right over down here, this is going to be the full URL you're going to kind of share with whoever you're going to share your website with. So I'm just going to put down just my name as kind of the web address here. And so this will be the final site that people will go to. Now, before you click publish, notice this section where it says who can view my site, because right now by default, it's setting it to just anyone at SUNY Oswego, which means that if you give this URL to anyone that is outside of SUNY Oswego, they won't be able to view it right away because they'd have to authenticate using a SUNY Oswego account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click manage, and then I'm going to kind of change this so that way it's changed to the outside world. So where it says links, we're going to click change. And then where it says publish site, where it says SUNY Oswego, we're going to change this over to public. So now anyone on the internet can find and view this website. So I'm going to go ahead and click done. And then once you've verified that anyone can view your site, if that's what you want set, what I would do next is kind of copy and paste this URL somewhere, like copy and paste this either to Notepad or to another text editor there. And then when you're ready, well, actually, before I get to that part, you'll see this option where you can kind of request public search engines, so like Google or Bing. If you don't want them to index this website when you go to like, say, search for your name or anything like that, you can click this in order to kind of try and disable that. It's up to the search engine usually to honor this, to my understanding, but usually by having this checked, it will kind of add a text file in order to kind of prevent search engines from indexing it. So if you don't want like the outside world looking for this easily, then you can just select this. And then when you're all set, you'll just click publish. And then your site will be published successfully. So what I'm going to do next is go to publish settings and just verify, yep, that's the URL that I want to kind of go to. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. And then I'm going to open up a new tab and then go to that website just to kind of see how it looks from the outside world. And so if you give this URL to other people and you have this set to public, this is what they will see. So you can kind of go through different sections of your website and have people like take a look at like your photos and all that fun stuff. And so clicking on these settings, you can be able to kind of update like certain types of settings about the user interface for your website as you're editing them. You can update, like you can put a logo or a fave icon to it. So that way, like if people go to view your website, this icon over near the title there can change based off of whatever you upload for that. And you can also gather analytics for them as well if you have a Google Analytics account. What I will say though, right off the bat, is when it comes to using a custom URL, I can't really speak too much on that aspect because that is unfortunately above my pay grade. I think we have that turned off due to how we have our Google Sites license set up for Google Apps there. If you are interested in doing a custom URL, you may have to do a redirect if you do those type of URL settings there. Otherwise, like, say, for instance, if you want to do like dantrong.com, I don't believe our current instance will allow you to do that right off the bat. That might be a question for Sean Moriarty or Mike Pisa at that point. And so that's pretty much all I currently have for Google Sites there. So I'll open it up to the floor if anyone has any questions. Any thoughts or anything?
I think, Dan, I think we're going to have, at least my feeling is, I don't know about the others, I'm going to need to get in there and actually play, because watching you do it, you know, doesn't give me a lot of confidence that I'll be able to do it. I mean, it was great. Yes. What Michelle and, you know, whatever, it was great. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like riding a bicycle, you know, I kind of have to do it and see, because I'm sure I'll run into problems.
Oh, for sure. I definitely recommend playing around with it for the very first time, because it's one of those where it's like the interface might look intuitive there, but there's just also it comes to it where you have so many bells and whistles to play with, where it's like, which one do you like? It becomes less of like a how to use the tool, but like how do I get like the max, like the most out of it? Like how do I derive the most value? And like how do I prevent like being overwhelmed, like making my website like too top heavy in that sense? So it's definitely one of those where you definitely want to play around with it.
I did think of a question. Suppose, all right, you just created that website. If
Yeah.
somebody were to go to the SUNY Oswego homepage and put Dan Trong in the search bar, would that page be one of the things that comes up?
I don't believe so, but that might be more of a better question for our web publishing team, like Rick Buck or the communications team. Any other questions? All right. Well, if you guys do want like additional ideas or anything, or if you want like reclarification on like a couple of items there, I'm putting my email inside the chat box. So if you want to send me an email, or if you're looking for ideas of sorts, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll be able to kind of help walk through some of that process. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for coming over to this event. And, you know, the sky's the limit for how you want to create your website. So some of you have probably heard me say this before. I always like to say, go crazy, but not too crazy. So have at it and have fun. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan.
All righty.